guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
Come on along and welcome aboard. Indiana Sports Beat, of course, coming to you here on this Monday from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette is always with us. Jim Coyle here as well, coming off of a very interesting weekend, Dylan. How was yours?
I think interesting is the right way to put it. It was up and down as far as Indiana sports fans are concerned.
Yeah, of course, the loss in the Outback Bowl is going to take center stage today, but we've got Don Fischer is going to be on with us. Looking forward to talking to Don here in just a second. I think he may be with us. And Noah, just let me know when Don joins us, and we'll be talking to Don. Matt Taylor is going to join us for the Colts. They have a lot of good things to talk about. A big win for them as they're heading to the playoffs. Indiana basketball tonight. So there's a lot going on and a lot to talk about. But, of course, Indiana going down to Tampa and losing to Ole Miss. It was utter shock to watch that game unfold, Dylan, and it just didn't change. And that's you're waiting for this to this defense to pick up, the offense to pick up, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah. I mean, and that was the thing is the entire game was basically the defense desperately trying to get any kind of stop that it could, and then the offense trying to move the ball in any way. And it just, for the most of the game, that's just not what happened until the very end. And it was good to see the comeback in the fourth quarter, but that it just wasn't enough, and because they didn't play well enough in the first three quarters. And so, we've seen this again and again from IU in bowl games that they play well for some stretches and fall just short, and it happened again.
Well, it certainly is going to be a tough one to get over. Don Fischer, the voice of the Hoosiers, we're very fortunate for him to join us. Now, Don, how are you, sir?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Just getting by, long weekend, getting back. I don't know, but you're going to be busy. You got a basketball game to get to tonight as well. So, but of course, the big story of Indiana and the performance in the Outback Bowl, not exactly what we were all hoping for, but a great season, but not the finish most fans were looking for.
No, kind of a stale to the season. I'm not going to go where some of the newspaper people went with this thing and be as negative as they were, but my point would be there were a lot of factors involved in Indiana's performance on Saturday, and without question, it is a disappointing end to a season that was spectacular in so many ways. A 6-1 record going into that bowl game. But COVID knocked out the last two opportunities to play the Purdue Boilermakers as arch rivals. Back on December 5th is the last time Indiana played football. It took almost 2 weeks for them to get anybody back on the field again. And then you have less than 2 weeks to get ready for this bowl game against the Mississippi team that was one of the best offensive teams in the country. As explosive a team and an up-tempo a team as I've seen in a long, long time. That said, Indiana didn't do it on defense because they couldn't get Mississippi turned over. They had no turnovers in this ball game, which has been their MO all season on the defensive side of the football. They bent a lot in this ball game, but they didn't break all that often. They forced field goal tries. Obviously, they were able to block one of those field goal attempts. Their kicker got a little discombobulated, missing a couple of a field goal and an extra point as well after the block kick. So obviously, Indiana's defense teams did enough in this ball game to give Indiana a chance. There just wasn't enough on the offensive side of the football. And you could argue that Jack Tuttle didn't play a great game. I would say that Jack Tuttle probably played as good as he possibly could under the circumstances, with a separated shoulder suffered midway through the second quarter, and continued to play throughout the contest. In fact, I thought in the second half he actually threw the ball pretty well, considering that he had to be in some pain. But now, all that said, those are all sounding like excuses, but it's the realism of the situation. And Indiana, I thought, got away from the run game a little bit when it was running very effectively toward the end of the contest there. And that last drive where Indiana got in some trouble because of the passing game, I thought they could have run the football more effectively down there. So it was a combination of all those things, the heat, the humidity that Indiana wasn't used to, hadn't played in it all year. That had to be a factor in this contest as well. I know it all sounds like excuses, but it is the realistic scenario of what took place in this ball game, and Indiana comes up short again.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you have to live with that for a year, and especially they were looking to get the monkey off their back with having not won a bowl game in so long. But, man, going forward, the things that they did succeed. You talk about Jack Tuttle. I do want to say this about it. You want to talk about toughness. That's not the first time he's done this. He did the same thing in the Wisconsin game. He played through a lot of pain and battled. So you got to love that in having your leader out there.
Well, there's no question, and the kids respect him, but there's no doubt that they do. They know how tough he is. Michael McFadden, I guess, the postgame didn't even realize that he had a separated shoulder. He says, after knowing that, he said, just puts an exclamation point on how tough this guy actually is. But Jack Tuttle's a good quarterback, and I think that down the road in his career, I think he's going to be special, just like Michael Penix has been special. And we don't know what that scenario is going to bring next year, because you're going to have those two guys on campus probably. I mean, I assume Michael will be back. That's an assumption on my part. Doesn't mean it's factual. I think that with those two guys, you've got the other kid, the Dexter Williams kid that looks very promising as a freshman. And you got a kid coming in, Florence North High School, who's one of the best quarterbacks in the high school ranks in the country. He's a 4-star. So there's little question the quarterback position is solidified, no matter who will be on campus next year. This team's got plenty of rotation in the quarterback room, no doubt about that. The question is, how many other guys will be coming back? Because nobody lost eligibility with this season. So everybody that wants to come back can, and it'll be interesting to see who does not.
Yeah, Don, I wanted to ask you a little bit about that. Is this something that Indiana can use as kind of fuel in this offseason, or is that something that we've heard too often? And it seems like they should kind of have another strategy this year, because they've used it as fuel in the offseason a lot, and it hasn't been able to get them a bowl win yet.
Well, you know what? The fact of the matter is, losing bowl games at the end of the season, I don't think factors into the next year. I really don't. I think what factors into the next year is the culture of your program, the ability to continue to recruit, get good players on campus, and then a way to when you want to build on something, you build on the positives. And this team had so many positives this year. There's no question about that. I think it's a good football. I think the program has been elevated. The culture there is terrific. Tom Allen has done a tremendous job with that. And there's no doubt in my mind that this program is coming. It's still coming. There's so much room that they can still improve on. And without question, this bowl game showed that. So from the perspective of, having a chip on their shoulder and all those kinds of things, I think that's still the case. It will be the case for time to come. And because this team doesn't get the respect, I don't think that it deserves, but at the same time, you got to prove it on the field. And Tom Allen said that many times during this season. Tried to take the high road in a lot of these cases, and I think in a justifiable way. But at the same time, you've got to prove it on the field. And this team, when they've had opportunities to showcase themselves this year, they were able to do that until the bowl game. That should be the one thing that they can put their hat on and say, look, we've got to be able to finish these contests. And I think, again, a lot played into why Indiana didn't finish in this ball game. Again, the time that it was down, I think it made them a little bit rusty. I don't think there's any question about that. It probably took away a little bit of their edge being away for a couple of weeks and not being able to practice. Those kinds of things, I think, played into this just as much as the heat and the humidity in Tampa, Florida.
Yeah, there's a lot to that, Don, and I know we got to get you going here. One quick question, because tonight's the game, Indiana basketball at 8 o'clock. The Maryland Terrapins, another terrific challenge for these Hoosiers. This Maryland team is one we've seen up and down. They've dropped some close games, but they've gone on the road and they beat a good Wisconsin team.
Well, they beat Wisconsin a week ago today. They played Purdue tough at Purdue and lost by just 3 points. They have had they've had an up and down season at this point from a record perspective, but man, they played tough at the defensive end of the floor. They put nobody out there with the exception of maybe one guy that's smaller than 6'5" on the court. They're not a gigantic team by any stretch of the imagination, but they have size, they have athleticism, and they have veterans in this ball club. Marcel now will not play tonight from what we understand because of a broken bone in his cheek, but has had surgery on it, is going to be out a week or two, and then he'll be back playing again. But he's one of those calming forces on this team. Even though he doesn't score a ton of points, he's averaging just about 8 a game. But he is a very good defensive player. He's their best defensive player from what we understand. He won't be available for them, but they've got plenty of other kids that have played on this ball club. The Ayala kid, the Wiggins kid, Dante Scott is having a phenomenal year, shooting 60% from three-point range. He's just playing terrific and averaging 6.8 rebounds on top of how well he's shooting the basketball. I don't think they're as deep as they have been in the past, but they've got at least 7 guys in this ball club that are veterans who can really factor into the ball game. So it's going to be a challenge. There's no question about that, but it's another game that Indiana needs to win. They need to get to 2-2 on their Big Ten schedule before they go on the road at Wisconsin and Nebraska later in this week.
Absolutely. Make sure you catch the broadcast with the voice, Don Fischer. Sir, thank you so much. Appreciate you. Have a great week.
All right, Jim. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it a bunch, guys. See ya.
You bet. There's the great Don Fischer joining us here as he's got a game tonight. Busy weekend for him, man. It's been. I'm sure he doesn't want to see the football season end, but I'm sure he does because, man, his voice has got to need a rest. He has been busy here of late, doubling the radio shows. You've got twice as many games to prepare for. That's a lot of stuff. The travel is built into all that stuff, but hopefully that slows down for him now. But tonight, Indiana taking on Maryland. That's a tough game, Dylan. And like Don said, that's a game that they need to win. But of course, every game in the Big Ten, you're going to say that about. I mean, what game are you not going to say it about? It's a slaughterhouse, and every opportunity comes up, and every time it's also an opportunity for that other team, though, and they're looking for those opportunities. And just talked about this Maryland team who. They've gone on the road and they beat a really good Wisconsin team. They lost some other ones and went on the road, lost to number 16 Michigan. There's another team that's coming on the rise. I mean, it's a slaughterhouse, man. And to know you have to have those night in and night out is just it's like being a boxer and having a fight once a week instead of you normally have them every 6 months. But the Big Ten is like having a heavyweight fight once a week right now. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is you need this is a game tonight where both teams probably feel a little bit of desperation. Indiana can't afford to lose a home game in the Big Ten against a team that is 1-3, and Maryland is 1-3, and the only win they have in the Big Ten is against Wisconsin. So they don't want to go to 1-4. Both teams are 6-4 overall with NCAA tournament aspirations. It's tough to get there from 6-5. You can do it. It's tough. So that both of these teams need a win tonight, and it should be a really good battle all the way through.
Yep. We got Matt Taylor's going to be joining us here, the voice of the Colts. Man, a big win for them. Everything went well. They're going to be in the playoffs for the first time in a few years. So that's going to be a happy conversation with Matt when he joins us. And so we'll get to that. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Back with more right after this. Well, the good thing is we're right on exact time today. I don't have to worry about the breaks, Noah. They're right on the normal.
Northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily.
Dude, I lost
Whether
my
you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers.
I don't understand it.
They all want a winning
like
smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
This Big Ten patch thing is really blowing up. Hey, this is Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Radio. We're now a part of the Rivals
really
Network. The Hoosier.com is where you will find complete coverage of the Indiana Hoosiers, as well as coverage of the Big Ten. Simply go to the Hoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also catch Indiana Sports Beat Radio there each day at your convenience, or you can find it any place you podcast or on this station each weekday. If we're not on the station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. The 2021 golf season is just around the corner. Book your next outing or get your membership from the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Just call 812-824-4040. And whether you're playing golf or not, you'll want to check out the new Psalms Clubhouse. It's open to the public for lunch or dinner, and the food is fantastic. Call 812-824-4040 for reservations or tee times. The Golf Club at Eagle Point and Psalms Clubhouse. A winner every time.
Does your bank offer the personal service of a community bank combined with big bank products that you expect? I'm Dane Chandler, Banking Center Manager with Banterra, and with our bank, you get the best of both worlds. Our easy-to-use mobile app includes conveniences like mobile check deposit. We offer competitive CD and money market rates, smart mortgage options, and unmatched business products and services. Switching to Banterra is easy. Stop by our locations to learn more. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
The college and pro football seasons bring friends together, and Leroy's Tavern is a place to watch all the games every week with the NFL Sunday Ticket while enjoying $1 Busch Light drafts every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday. Leroy's Tavern also features a $6 daily lunch special from 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday, featuring a sandwich, fries, or onion rings, or a 7-inch pizza and a non-alcoholic drink for just $6. Be part of the karaoke fun every Friday and Saturday night. Leroy's Tavern, a West Side tradition for 50 years at 2659 Mount Vernon.
This is former Indiana basketball player Brian Evans, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
It's bigger than you are not me.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you here on this Monday from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. As always, Dylan Sinn with me, as he usually is. Man, that bowl game is that's going to leave us a bad taste for so many reasons. There was so much made by me as well as a lot of other people about Indiana getting shafted out of their proper placement where they should have been in probably a New Year's Six bowl game, then out of the Citrus Bowl. But then you go lay an egg like this, and then you have the Big Ten patch issue, which is kind of a growing issue now, I think, where Indiana covered the patch on their uniform, the Big Ten patch. I think you tried to make a statement and you got knocked on your butt doing it. It just it's not a good look.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of unclear exactly what they were trying to do with the patch. The Big Ten was not the reason. I mean, but it doesn't make that much sense to me. The Big Ten was not the reason that Indiana was left out of the bowl game. The Big Ten does not control the college football playoff committee. I guess if you want to get mad at Gary Barta because he's an Iowa guy, that's fine. I never really understood that. The Big Ten was
I think it's because they just felt that there was no support from the conference because of changing all the rules to help Ohio State, which was probably the right thing to do, to be truthful. But it's how they went about it. I think that Indiana felt slighted. They were slighted. Absolutely. It's how the Big Ten went about it. It's how everything was done. And that's my guess. Of course, I'm not in the room that made those decisions either, so I don't know. I'm just opining here. But that would certainly be my educated guess on that.
Yeah. And I mean, the bottom line, no matter why they did, bottom line is that if you're going to do something like that, you do have to back it up. And they didn't. And so it is gonna leave a sour taste, like you said. Although I don't really know what the Big Ten could particularly do about it. They're not going to kick Indiana out of the conference. They're not going to sanction Indiana for doing anything like that. So, the bigger thing is to probably at this point just let it die and not and not really try to rub salt in anyone's wound here. But yeah, it's definitely not a good look, like you said, to have that happen and then lose the game the way they did.
The issue is simply losing the game.
Yeah,
you're going up against a team that was just oh my God, outmanned, out everything. They their star player was a former quarterback turned receiver during the week. I mean, they were like drawing plays up in the dirt. They had to beg guys to play in this game.
Yeah, that was. I mean, we heard Lane Kiffin talk about that around Christmas time. Was that he was recruiting his own players to play in the game. Their best player, maybe one of the best wide receivers in the country, was out. He opted out. Their top two running backs were out. Their tight end was out. So if Indiana was ever going to get a bowl win, it should have been this one. And they just didn't have the athletes on defense to compete with that Ole Miss offense. And the bigger problem is that they didn't force any turnovers. Ole Miss turns the ball over as much as anyone in the country. Matt Corral threw 14 interceptions this season, and Indiana came close to intercepting him twice, but wasn't able to get it either time. Reese Taylor in the first quarter probably should have had a pick six, and it went through his fingers. Obviously, it would have been a fantastic play, and it was a fantastic play that he got his hand on it, but that should have been a pick six. And yeah, it's tough, right? So, I mean, Indiana's defense all year has been predicated on getting turnovers, and that's where the bend don't break comes from, because they don't have great athletes on defense. They have good athletes, but they don't have great athletes of the caliber that Ole Miss has. So if you're not going to get turnovers, you're going to be in big trouble, and they were.
Well, the biggest thing to me was this is the second year in a row, Dylan, we've had a coordinator with 1 foot out the door, foot and a half out the door to another job while preparing Indiana for a bowl game. I don't know that I can't say for certain that it affected it, but boy, it sure looked bad. It sure looked like it did. Offensively, no one is and I'm not either understanding what in the world, what was the game plan? How do you not? I don't know that they really have a game plan. It didn't look like it. If they did, it was one of they thought of real fast and say, we're just going to go with that, because throwing the ball to Whop Phillier 80,000 times for an average. What would he? At one point, I looked at the stats. He was averaging less yards per catch than Stevie Scott was per carry.
Yeah,
and that makes no sense. And they just continued to do that. And Ole Miss is a team that gave up 250 yards a game rushing. Indiana ended up with 57 yards. You've got three really good running backs. There was no creativity, no getting Stevie Scott out in space. No, it was just so many things I could sit here that I would have been doing. It was mind-boggling to watch. And so then you have to ask yourself, how in the world can people be in that position that allows that? It's not comprehensible to me. When you have that much time to prepare, and that's what you do.
And so that's the issue, is they ran the ball relatively well when they ran the ball. They just didn't do it all that often. It seemed like they wanted to substitute those swing passes to Whop Phillier for a running game, which I don't understand, because as you said, Ole Miss's run defense was not good all year long. And Indiana ran the ball relatively well, especially early. They were getting 4 or 5 yards a pop on most plays. Stevie Scott was running hard, and they kind of went away from that. They really wanted to get the ball in Whop Phillier's hands. If that was the game plan, if there was a game plan, that was the game plan: was get the ball to Whop Phillier and let him make plays. And they just went to him over and over and over again. I mean, he had 18 catches, which is an absurd amount for a bowl game. But as you said, they were all for 2, 3, 4 yards. Half the time he gained nothing. So I was very confused by that and why they didn't try to pound the ball up the middle at least a little bit more.
Yeah, it's just mind-boggling. I'm sure we'll get a post-performance reason, but it's not going to change anything, because you have to ask yourself. Tom Allen is great. Tom Allen is one of the most important coaching hires in the history of Indiana athletics. I don't know that I can say he's the most important football hire ever. It's when you have a coach that's gone to a Rose Bowl, but he's up there. His importance is unquestionable to me. But his loyalty is also sometimes his own worst enemy to me, because again, last year you had an opportunity to go out and bring in a very high-profile coordinator to really maybe ramp things up, and chose not to do that. Well, you had a defensive coordinator that was out the door And I don't know that how well the team was being prepared. Again, not there, so can't question it. But it doesn't look good. Loyalty sometimes it seems like it gets in the way too. This loss hurts this program. It really does. It was an embarrassing loss. And I think when the noise that was made this year of how good this team was, and they were, everything that was said about them was justified. They're a good team. There's no doubt about that. That was not the team that we saw. Unfortunately, that's what everybody got to see. And that's what's going to be left with in their mind. So when you want to go complain that you're being left out, they're going to say, yeah, you said that last year, and look what you did. You were who we thought you were. And that's the problem. That's what people are thinking right now. Outside of Indiana, they're doing the old Dennis Green. They are who we thought they were. That's why Indiana got passed over, because they see Indiana as that. And then that's why I think this is a devastating loss. I don't think it's something you can't get past. You can. But this is the second year in a row.
Yeah.
You want to change perceptions? That does not change it.
Yeah. And the good news is that I don't know how much recruits buy into the whole, they weren't that good all year, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know how much this loss hurts recruiting. Obviously, winning a bowl game would help recruiting. But I think recruits are smart enough to know what they saw all year. If they're considering IU, they were watching a lot more than just the bowl game. The more annoying thing is that it's going to be a year of experts, people on shows that break down games and things like that, basically saying what you just said. That, we saw this last year and Indiana wasn't that good at the end of the season. So obviously they can't be that good this year. And it's going to be the same thing, right? So and it's more annoying than anything. And it's tough for the program that they weren't able to get a bowl win when they talked all year about being different this year. And they were different this year, as you said. I think the point that you made is correct, is that this team was not a fraud all season just because they lost this bowl game. They were a good team the entire year that did not play well in a bowl game. And I think there's a significant difference there. I mean, we saw Indiana put up a better fight against Ohio State than Clemson did. So people are going to say all offseason, they weren't that good all year long, blah, blah, blah. And I just don't think that's true. And I think Indiana, they're going to need to go out and prove it next year.
They do. And the problem is they get out coached in these big event games, because good coaches rise to the occasion, just like players. Big-time players show up at big-time moments. So do coaches. And that's why you see all these names. Lane Kiffin, he wasn't afraid. You look at Indiana's experience, and this is when I say loyalty sometimes gets in the way for Coach Allen, I think. If you look at, you got Coach Allen, you've got an offensive coordinator, and special teams coordinators. If you add up the total years of experience for Indiana, what is it going to come to? 12 for all four of those guys? 12 maybe for all four. I would bet you, just in the Big Ten, you can't find a single team maybe that doesn't have one with more years combined than all that. No. That experience matters. If you don't believe me, look at the results. It matters at crunch time. It matters.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, right? Is like last year they went out and they got Kalen DeBoer to be the offensive coordinator, which was a great hire, right? He absolutely turbocharged that offense and took it to a level that it had not even come close to previously. He helped develop Michael Penix into the player that he is now. And then he deservedly went back and got a head coaching job, right? And that's just not something like they could have done that again this offseason. They decided to promote from within, which I mean, I understand. Maybe Nick Sheridan he obviously also had a hand in developing Michael Penix. Maybe Tom Allen thought he deserved a shot. And for most of the year, the offense was pretty good. With Michael Penix, the offense was explosive. Ty Freifogel was the Big Ten wide receiver of the year. But in a big game like that, I like you said, I don't know exactly what the game plan was, and it was baffling to me.
Yeah, I mean, and Indiana has to pay the price for that, though. Yeah, I agree with you on recruits. This is not going to affect recruiting. I don't see that in any way, because recruits they're still coming here. There's a reason they're coming here. Indiana's going to continue to be successful. Now, next year, and here's the problem. There's why it's so aggravating, to be honest with you. getting close to no, or we had a break. We got to keep you on that. You set yourself up in the polls for next season. When they were in the top 10. They win that game. They stay in the top 10 to end the season. Don't know where they would have started next year, but it would have been probably in the top 15 if they win that game. Now, do you think they start in the top 25 next year?
I would say somewhere in the top 25, maybe the 20s, maybe the low teens, because people will remember that they went 6-2 and that they were as high as number 7. But yeah, you're right. It absolutely hurts their preseason poll for next year, which, as we saw this year, is significant to the end of the season rankings, right? Where you start plays a significant factor in where you finish, no matter how the season goes. Yes. So that's something that Indiana will you're right. That is going to hurt them at the start of next year. And they're going to need to win some games, especially early, to shake that off and prove to people that they're better than they were.
And it hurts in Indiana worse than it would an Oklahoma in that same position because of what the brand is. And that's the problem. Indiana doesn't have a brand, and that's why it hurts more. They've got it's twice as hard for them to overcome those things perceptually in people's minds. And man, that's why there were so many opportunities lost there. There were just so many things that Indiana had at their hands that they could have elevated this program right there, which not that they didn't. They did. I mean, it was a great season. They did a lot of good things, but there's also the fact there, who did they beat? If you want to look at it, they beat a lot of names. They beat some names. They beat some great names, but who did they really beat? Right. They just lost to a pathetic Ole Miss team who was a ragtag put together team. And so then you have to ask yourself, who did they really beat? I know this team's talented. We know that they're a good football team. And the next year, wow, I don't know how good they can be because we don't know who all is coming back, for one. That's going to be the question. The quarterback issue, that's going to be a big question mark. Who's going to be there? But this Indiana team could be extremely good next year. No one has to leave because of the extended eligibility. We don't know who's coming back. If Michael Penix can come back, because you also see the difference in that offense with Michael Penix in there. I mean, it's a jet engine. I mean, it's not a Maserati or a Ferrari maybe, but it's a Porsche when he's in there. And that's the thing. Nick Sheridan was handed the keys to a Porsche. Just don't wreck it. Took it to the Outback Bowl and just drove it right into turn 1. That's how it looked. We got a lot more coming up, man. Matt Taylor's going to join us. The Colts, a gigantic win and propels them into the playoffs. Looking forward to that. I'm sure Matt's going to be happy. Haven't had him on for a couple of weeks, so he's going to join us next. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Back right after this.
The Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Hey, this is Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're now a part of the Rivals Network. TheHoosier.com is where you'll find complete coverage of the Indiana Hoosiers, as well as coverage of the Big Ten. Simply go to TheHoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also catch Indiana Sports Beat Radio there each day at your convenience, or you can find it any place you podcast or on this station each weekday. If we're not on the station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. The 2021 golf season is just around the corner. Book your next outing or get your membership from the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Just call 812-824-4040. And whether you're playing golf or not, you'll want to check out the new Psalms Clubhouse. It's open to the public for lunch or dinner, and the food is fantastic. Call 812-824-4040 for reservations or tee times. The Golf Club at Eagle Point and Psalms Clubhouse. A winner every time.
Does your bank offer the personal service of a community bank combined with big bank products that you expect? I'm Dane Chandler, Banking Center Manager with Banterra, and with our bank, you get the best of both worlds. Our easy-to-use mobile app includes conveniences like mobile check deposit. We offer competitive CD and money market rates, smart mortgage options, and unmatched business products and services. Switching to Banterra is easy. Stop by our locations to learn more. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
The college and pro football seasons bring friends together, and Leroy's Tavern is a place to watch all the games every week with the NFL Sunday Ticket while enjoying $1 Busch Light drafts every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday. Leroy's Tavern also features a $6 daily lunch special from 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday, featuring a sandwich, fries, or onion rings, or a 7-inch pizza and a non-alcoholic drink for just $6. Be part of the karaoke fun every Friday and Saturday night. Leroy's Tavern, a West Side tradition for 50 years at 2659 Mount Vernon.
What's up, boys?
Hello, Matthew.
How's it going, Matt?
Hey, this is Jordan Halls, former Indiana Hoosier. Keep up with Indiana sports on Indiana Sports Beat.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Well, don't get lonely now.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Monday. And now excited to welcome in Matt Taylor, the voice of the Colts. Matthew, how are you doing, sir?
I am great. How you guys doing?
Cannot complain. I got a great win for the Colts over the weekend, man. You have to be on cloud nine along with the rest of Colt Nation.
Yeah, it's fun, because a win, it was a wild, set of circumstances yesterday because it was kind of a weird, stressful, if you're a fan, like really invested fan, because going into the game, the range of possibilities for the Colts included, losing the game, being swept by a bad Jaguar team, missing the playoffs, to winning the game against Jacksonville, being left out in the playoffs altogether, to, winning the game, winning the AFC South, and then everything in between, right? I mean, it was just a nuts type of day and a kind of crazy game. As the Colts sprinted out to that 20-0 lead, kind of hit a lull, which has been kind of a pattern for this team in the last couple of weeks. It was 20-14. The Jaguars had 4 different opportunities in the second half. They had the ball 4 times to potentially go down the field and take the lead. That never happened. Kudos to the Colts defense for rising to the occasion time and time again in the second half. So the Colts win the game. They make the playoffs because earlier in the day, the Buffalo Bills knocked off the Miami Dolphins. So that opened the door for the Colts to at least get a wild card berth. And then after the game at Lucas Oil Stadium, we're all kind of watching that Titans and Texans game. That goes down to the wire. The Titans doink in a field goal at the end of the game to win it, meaning they win the AFC South with an 11-5 record, same record as the Colts, but they get the tiebreaker because they have a better division record at 5-1 compared to the Colts 4-2 record in the AFC South. So the Colts go from literally inches from hosting a playoff game, winning the division for the first time in 2014. We talk all the time about it's a game of inches. It comes down to the little things. As I said, just a couple of feet separate the Colts from hosting a playoff game to traveling on the road to take on maybe the hottest team in football right now in the Buffalo Bills, the number 2 seed in the wild card round coming up on Saturday.
Absolutely. Something that was not done by a couple of feet was Jonathan Taylor's day, 253 yards. So multiply that by 3. What an incredible performance he put on. Man, Indiana could have sure used him in the Outback Bowl. 253 yards on 30 carries, longest 56-yarder. He averaged 8.5 yards a carry.
Yeah, just nuts. I mean, I don't know how long your show is, probably around 2 hours. We could sit here and talk about all the different milestones and all the different accolades that Jonathan Taylor just broke. But, I mean, the big ones, he sets the Colts all-time record for rushing yards in a single game with 253. I mean, he went over 200 yards, second player in the history of the franchise to do that. And the only other player was Edgerrin James. He leads the NFL, or led the NFL now that the season's over. We can say past tense, led the NFL in rushing among rookies, finished third in the NFL among all players, became the Colts' fifth different rookie to go over 1,000 yards in their first season, joining Marshall Faulk, Joseph Adai, Dominic Rhodes. So just, I mean, so many different things that he accomplished yesterday. The biggest one, I think, was just, the ninth highest rushing game in the history of the NFL, the ninth highest game ever. And we're talking about a guy that, I'm not going to use the word struggled, but he had an up and down season, right? I mean, he had that 100-yard game against Minnesota in week 2, but then he kind of lost some carries to Nyheim Hines and Jordan Wilkins as the season progressed. His yards per carry kind of stayed limited, but the production really didn't reach that level that he's used to at Wisconsin. I mean, there was a stretch there. We've talked about this before in November in weeks 9 and 10 against Baltimore and Tennessee. He had a combined 39 yards on 13 carries, lost a fumble, and then he would miss the second Tennessee game later on that month because he was on the COVID-19 list. But man, what a big time bounce back over the last 6 games. He racked up 741 yards. He had 7 touchdowns, averaged over 100 yards per game, over 6 yards per carry. In that time, he ranked second in the NFL in rushing, second in yards per game, and tied for third in rushing touchdowns. So what a flourish, to end the season, that last 6-game stretch. I don't know if I've seen anything more impressive, especially for a guy in his rookie season that hit a little bit of a speed bump in the month of November that I talked about.
Hey, Matt, I wanted to ask you about kind of your experience yesterday, because we talked about it. There was so many possibilities as the game was happening. We weren't sure whether the Colts were going to miss the playoffs, get a wild card, win the division. What was that experience like, calling that game for you and kind of keeping one eye on the scoreboard at the same time? I'm sure that was something that you probably haven't experienced too often before.
Well, the NFL does such a good job of generating drama. So they flex the Colts-Jaguars game. They also flex the Titans-Texans game to the late window at 4:25. But in doing that, they had the 3 teams that I talked about. The Colts needed one of 4 things to happen in order to make the playoffs. But in order to clinch a wild card spot, they needed one of 3 things to happen. All of those instances occurred in the 1 o'clock window. So you had Buffalo, Miami, you had Cincinnati and Baltimore, and then you had Cleveland and Pittsburgh. The Colts needed the Browns to lose, the Ravens to lose, or the Dolphins to lose. And the only one that happened was Miami. Miami lost. They got blasted by Buffalo, which is kind of ironic that Buffalo opens the door for the Colts to get in, and that's who they play. So we were watching all of those games and keeping tabs on them pretty intently during the 1 o'clock window. But then, once the Colts and Jags kicked off, we were kind of toggling back and forth, between the scoreboard and the stat sheets between the Colts and Jags and Titans, Texans, especially during timeouts, kind of keeping track of where that game was. And then at the end of the game, it was just crazy. But the hardest part for me was leading into the game. Like on Fridays, I put together like a historical context of the game. So once the game's over, you can say, the Colts have, whatever it is, they've won 3 in a row, and now they're, such and such mark at home, such and such mark on the, in the division, that kind of thing. And so kind of planning for all the different scenarios was taxing because, as I said, the Colts, they could have potentially won 11-5. They could have gone 11-5 and won 11 games and missed the playoffs. So doing all of that research to put that into context on how rare that would have been, that took a lot of time. And thankfully, I didn't have to open up that page in the notebook and go there, because that just would have been depressing for the Colts to be the 4th team in the Super Bowl era to miss the playoffs with 11 wins. Hopefully or thankfully, we didn't have to bring those nuggets to life.
And I don't want to step on the party here, Matt, but you got to go to play at Buffalo Bills next. That's not an easy assignment for this team, although they're playing well. But that the reward is to play the hottest team, like you said. They're looking good right now.
They sure are. As I said, they've won 6 in a row, 9 of their last 10. As a franchise, they're doing some things they haven't done in a long, long time, and it's a fan base that obviously is enjoying it. They've won the AFC East for the first time since 1995. They're 13-3, their best start since 1991. And it had it not been for that weird ending in Arizona when Kyler Murray hit DeAndre Hopkins on a Hail Mary, they probably would be on an 11-game winning streak here right now. But there's no doubt about it. This is one of the best teams in football. They're vastly improved from last year when they were really, really good. Their offense last year was 24th. They're 4th in 2020. Their passing offense specifically improved. They were 26th last season. They're up to 2nd this year. They've got weapons on offense for Josh Allen. Stephon Diggs led the NFL in both receptions and yards. They have Cole Beasley, who's a really, really good slot receiver. Their defense is playing much, much better. Linebackers on defense, they got Tremaine Edmonds. They've got a cornerback, Tre'Davious White, who's really good. He earned a Pro Bowl nod. But it all starts with Josh Allen, and he broke a ton of franchise records this year. Broke the record for passing yards, touchdowns, completions. He finished with only 10 picks, so he took really good care of the football. I mean, this is a guy that's a legitimate MVP candidate. He probably won't win, but he's top 3 in terms of how well he's played here in 2020. So, you have to go on the road. It's going to be cold up there. Thankfully, based on the weather forecast I've seen, it's not going to be raining or snowing or anything like that, but it's still Buffalo, New York on January 9th. So you have to contend with that, but this is the bed the Colts made by not winning the division. And so now they know they're going to have to go on the road the entire postseason should they make the Super Bowl.
Absolutely. And we look forward to that ride continuing. Just got back yesterday, Matt, from Tampa. And unfortunately, Indiana was left out back by Lane Kiffin down there. Ooh, a little sly one there. Thank you very much. But no, that was such just got off with Don Fischer earlier, and I've been sitting there talking with Dylan about it, Dylan Sinn. That was just such a disappointing ending to a fabulous season for the Indiana football program.
Yeah, it was disappointing because, obviously Ole Miss, they were missing a ton of players from my understanding. Some guys opted out, injuries, COVID stuff, and not to be able to take advantage of that situation is really kind of frustrating because, like you said, the only thing missing from that great season is a bowl win, and Indiana hasn't gotten one of those since the early 90s. And it just seems like everything that happened regarding with IU football since the end of that, ever since they beat Wisconsin on the road, everything regarding IU football has been kind of negative, right? They had the COVID outbreak. The bucket game got canceled twice, weren't able to beat Purdue. As I said, you dealt with sickness and illness within the program, so you had to mess with that. Then you got kind of hosed by the college football ranking system. The Big Ten kind of snubbed its own program in Indiana to a little bit. I thought it was a really bad matchup on paper. Like when the pairings came out for the bowls, and I found out it was going to be Ole Miss, I didn't like the matchup from the get-go because even though Ole Miss is 4-5, they play a unique style offense that Indiana hadn't seen all year in the Big Ten. So they had to kind of be prepared for that, and plus not being able to practice because of COVID, that was a big monkey wrench in the preparation. Plus, I thought everybody kind of looked, just from watching it from afar on TV. I don't know how about you felt, Jim, but I felt like IU was slow. They looked out of shape. They were bad tacklers in that game. They just offensively, I thought the game plan was a little bit screwed up in the play calling. I thought they should have ran the ball a lot more than they did. And it's just like you said, it's an unfortunate ending to a really, really fun and enjoyable season.
Yeah, and the worst thing is, like we've talked about, that you have to hold that taste in your mouth till next year and get past all that. And actually, and the optics, we talked about the Indiana they did get snubbed, and they did not get to play in the bowl game that they should have been playing in. But man, you can't go out and lay a performance like that. And an Indiana program that really needs to do that.
Right.
They've got to find a way to get past that. And I think the recruiting is going to continue to do well for Tom Allen. That's not going to be a problem. But man, you got to win a big game when you get the opportunity.
Well, that was the next thing. That was the next step. Even though it was the Outback Bowl and probably not the bowl you wanted to be playing in, it was still a bowl game and a chance to get a bowl win. And that was the next thing for this program to do, to continue to build and develop, and not to be able to get that again against a mediocre to average SEC team is just really frustrating. And this only adds fuel to the fire to the Indiana naysayers that are arguing that it's, a flash in the pan. It's they're a one-hit wonder. And to be honest with you, what's really frustrating is that all of the college football playoff backers, they can just point to the results. They can say they're right? Because Iowa State won their game, Northwestern won their game, and IU lost theirs. So they come out looking smarter than, most IU diehard fans.
Unfortunately, it's true. But you got to look at coaching. I've talked about Tom Allen is one of the most important coaching hires in the history of Indiana athletics, and what he has done, it's crazy. But I talked earlier about his loyalty sometimes is his own worst enemy as well, because I think from a program, they could have been in a lot better situation with experience on this staff. I think this staff needs some more experience to help them get to that point, because they don't have people on the staff that have experienced that, other than maybe in college as a player. But you need coaches that have been in those moments and know how to get past them and make the adjustments. And that's not happening here. And it's not going to happen when you don't have the experience to do it.
Well, I thought it was obviously it's not an ideal situation when your defensive coordinator is balancing so much stuff, because now he's a head coach somewhere else. So that's obviously not the perfect situation to be in. I don't think we'll ever be able to know and be able to quantify how much, divided attention Kane Womack had in that game as the defensive coordinator. But I kind of hear what you're saying. The only argument I'll have against that, and just to play devil's advocate, is now everybody has more experience because they played in that game together. So now they're going to have that collectively going into next year. Plus, they've got some marquee wins on their resume, like Penn State, Michigan. They played Ohio State tough, so they do have those as notches on their belt. But I see where you're coming from, but it definitely. It's an opportunity lost to springboard you into even having even more momentum heading into a 2021 season, where there's going to be a ton of hype, maybe the biggest hype surrounding IU football and heading into a campaign in the history of the program.
Dylan?
Yeah, Matt, I wanted to ask you about that too. Was that what you take away from this season, that 2021 is just going to be kind of even more important to keep that momentum rolling?
Well, I think so. I mean, obviously, the schedule's going to be there. The Big Ten East isn't going anywhere. And again, I think some of the naysayers on IU football point to the fact that it's an abnormal season. No fans in the stands. I mean, for years and years. I mean, how many losses over the years in tough environments could be attributed to major fan bases? How many losses in Michigan were because it's the big house and 110,000 fans, and they're breathing down the necks of 17, 18, 19-year-old kids. Same in Penn State, same in Michigan State. You didn't have that this year. And so I think it's time for Indiana to come back in 2021, and I'm just assuming now that there's going to be some fans in the stands at Big Ten football games next season. So the Colts are going to have, I do that all the time. Indiana's going to have to come back and kind of reprove that they're a legitimate football program and to be taken serious as a top 15 program in the country, and go on the road and win some hostile environments when fans do come back, because they notched some impressive wins this year, but they did it in front of, basically nobody in the stands. And so some of these home field advantages that have plagued IU over the years, those are going to be back in 2021. And IU has to prove that, it's not a fluke that they took advantage of a COVID season, so to speak, with not a lot of momentum inside these stadiums.
Well, man, I hope you got the suntan oil out and all that for your trip next week to Buffalo, so you can enjoy all the.
I'm going to need it now. I'm going to need it.
Well, man, at least you're getting to go. It's a great opportunity for the Colts as they continue. They're on a roll, man, and I hope it continues because we love getting to talk about another Colts win. And this would be a big one in the playoffs because, like you said, Buffalo is playing extremely high-level football right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It should be a great game. But as I said, speaking of no fans, in the NFL this year, it's just crazy. This is the most stacked, most loaded AFC conference playoff field maybe in the history of professional football. So the goal was to just get into the dance. And now that the Colts are in the dance, home field advantage, you can throw it out the window. And now it's just whoever executes better on a given Sunday. I truly think everybody can beat anybody else on a given day. And so right out of the gate, the Colts play 1 o'clock on Saturday, the first playoff game of the weekend. I don't think much is going to matter in terms of home field advantage, although I think the weather will play a factor. Hopefully the Colts can get acclimated to that and practice outdoors this week in Indianapolis. But I think this is going to be a very fun and a very exciting AFC playoff field, and I can't wait for it.
Me either, buddy. Matt Taylor, can't thank you enough, brother. Hope you have a great week preparation, and we'll look forward to talking about it next week.
Indeed. Be good, guys. Thanks.
Thank you very much. There he is. There's the voice of the Indianapolis Colts joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat. We got lots more coming up. We'll be back with it from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this.
Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Hey, this is Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're now a part of the Rivals Network. TheHoosier.com is where you'll find complete coverage of the Indiana Hoosiers, as well as coverage of the Big Ten. Simply go to TheHoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also catch Indiana Sports Beat Radio there each day at your convenience, or you can find it any place you podcast or on this station each weekday. If we're not on the station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. The 2021 golf season is just around the corner. Book your next outing or get your membership from the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Just call 812-824-4040. And whether you're playing golf or not, you'll want to check out the new Psalms Clubhouse. It's open to the public for lunch or dinner, and the food is fantastic. Call 812-824-4040 for reservations or tee times. The Golf Club at Eagle Point and Psalms Clubhouse. A winner every time.
Does your bank offer the personal service of a community bank combined with big bank products that you expect? I'm Dane Chandler, Banking Center Manager with Banterra, and with our bank, you get the best of both worlds. Our easy-to-use mobile app includes conveniences like mobile check deposit. We offer competitive CD and money market rates, smart mortgage options, and unmatched business products and services. Switching to Banterra is easy. Stop by our locations to learn more. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
The college and pro football seasons bring friends together, and Leroy's Tavern is a place to watch all the games every week with the NFL Sunday Ticket while enjoying $1 Busch Light drafts every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday. Leroy's Tavern also features a $6 daily lunch special from 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday, featuring a sandwich, fries, or onion rings, or a 7-inch pizza and a non-alcoholic drink for just $6. Be part of the karaoke fun every Friday and Saturday night. Leroy's Tavern, a West Side tradition for 50 years at 2659 Mount Vernon.
This is former Indiana basketball player Brian Evans, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Monday. Dylan Sinn joining me as well from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Dylan, there are so many other games that went on over the weekend. I haven't talked about those yet. I missed a lot of those, unfortunately, because of whether traveling or covering, whatnot. But, of course, the big ones, Ohio State, talk about having an opportunity to make a statement. Well, all that was going on in that game with Dabo Swinney and all what he had going on, and Ohio State did exactly that. They made a statement, 49-28. I mean, you talk about, wow, that is not what I expected. I thought Ohio State would win the game. I did, but I did not think it was going to be that way. I thought it was going to be a shootout.
No. Yeah, and that's the thing is that Ohio State's defense looked pretty mortal all year long. We saw them against Indiana really struggle in the second half with giving up some big plays. And so they gave up big plays to Indiana and Michael Penix, but they didn't really give up a whole lot of big plays to Trevor Lawrence and Clemson, which is just a shocking thing to say. They clearly made some adjustments down the stretch this season to figure some things out on the defensive end. And I mean, Justin Fields played as well as we've seen him play in his 2 years at Ohio State. There were some times this year where you wondered whether he was fully healthy or whether he was just having trouble dealing with pressure, because that was the book seemed to be out on Justin Fields, where if you get some pressure on him, he's going to make mistakes, because Indiana was the first team that was able to do that. And Clemson was able to get some pressure on him, but Fields stood tall, and he had a terrific game playing with what was apparently a fairly significant hip injury. So just a fantastic game for Ohio State overall. You would think it would quiet a lot of doubters. That one and the Northwestern game should quiet a lot of people who were saying the Big Ten had a bad season for whatever reason, because Michigan and Penn State weren't very good. That means the Big Ten had a bad year, was the prevailing theory. But yeah, Ohio State had a great game, and I would expect them to be in the game against Alabama.
And talk about Alabama, the Alabama-Notre Dame game. That's a game that you covered Notre Dame all year long, and I pretty much turned out how I expected it to. I mean, it was what we thought.
Yeah. I mean, and that was it. Was not only was the score about what we expected, but the game went about like we expected, right? Notre Dame really struggled to stop Alabama's offense, as everyone else has all year. Alabama looked unstoppable. Notre Dame was able to get some stops because Notre Dame does have a very, very good defense, especially late. They're one of the best teams in the country at second half adjustments, which is something that they've hung their hat on for a while. But they were able to score a little bit on offense. They moved the ball relatively well. They had a couple opportunities in the red zone where they didn't cash in. So that was about what we expected. I mean, the line was about 20, and they lost by 17. They had a backdoor cover there at the end. So that was about what everyone expected. I don't think it really told you anything one way or the other about, well, does Notre Dame deserve that spot? Was there anyone that would have done better? I don't personally think there was in that spot anyone that would have played better against Alabama, but I guess you could make a case for Cincinnati, who played very, very well against Georgia.
Absolutely, that's exactly what I think, and I think they deserved it. My problem with Notre Dame is they did not deserve it. The ACC did not deserve it. The ACC did not deserve for that committee to hand them $12 million. It's such an aggravating thing when anybody that has any sports knowledge look in the ACC, and you just realize how it's a weak conference, and you just watch the games and know that, and then you look what Ohio State does to Clemson. They're king. They're poster child. They're absolutely destroyed. And then that brings up a second thing. Why are we having national semifinal games that end up being 49-28 and 31-14? The Clemson was just a shock. But we know the Notre Dame game is going to be a joke going in. So why not give a Cincinnati a shot? I don't understand the complete reluctance still to this day to do that. And I think it's a loss for college football.
Yeah, I think you're right. The problem with teams like Cincinnati is that we've seen them do well in bowl games. It's not like when they get a New Year's Six bowl, because they've gotten New Year's Six bowls relatively frequently. And when they get New Year's Six bowl, I mean, a group of 5 team gets one every year. But when they get New Year's Six bowls, we've seen them win. We saw Central Florida win. We saw Cincinnati. They played about as well as you could have expected against Georgia. And so you at some point you'd expect the committee would say, hey, throw some team in, if only to get the rest of us off their back, right? You expect them to say, hey, throw a Cincinnati in there, and then if they lose by 50 points to Alabama, then the committee can be like, well, we don't have to ever worry about this again. At some point, you would expect them to do that at least once, just to get everyone online off their back.
Until there's an actual playoff, though, there is no true national champion, because I don't care how good Alabama looks. I don't care how good Ohio State looks. You cannot, with complete certainty, ever say, well, this is the best team in the country. Even if they win when they win the national championship, to me, because they haven't gone through a true playoff. Because how many people would have bet large that Clemson score would not have happened or would have been the reverse? A lot. So what people think they know, no, you don't. That's why you got to play the games. And when the games are played, the results speak loudly. And to me, they've spoken here. And that's why this another reason for a play. An Iowa State team. There's a perfect example of a playoff. A team that I got on a lot because they were given a lot for the record they have, but they were still a good football team. They lost early. They probably shouldn't have. But had they been in a playoff, who knows what they can do? That's a football team that struggles early, and you do lose a game or two, knocks you out of consideration, basically. But if you come together and at the end of the year there was a playoff and you got in, who knows? And I promise you, the champions that have been determined from going backwards, if there had been a playoff, there would have been a lot of those names changed.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing is, I would expect at some point we'll get a larger playoff. We'll get to 8 teams. We might get to 16 eventually. But that's going to mess with the rest of the season schedule. I'm not sure exactly how fair it is to ask players to keep playing more and more games because they're college kids. You don't want them playing a full 16 games like the NFL does. There's a reason that NBA teams play 82 games and college teams only play 30 or whatever it is. So yeah, you want there to be some kind of balance, and if the NCAA or the College Football Playoff Committee is going to decide to expand to 8 or 16, you want some kind of cap on how many regular season games teams can play. Maybe do away with the conference championship games, although it's tough to do away with those because they're such big money makers for the conferences. You wouldn't need them in an 8 or 16.
Actually, could probably be used to determine what you're talking about.
Yeah. Exactly, and that's the thing. You could have the conference championship games be some kind of direct play-in.
Why are they not
of some kind? Yeah, exactly.
I mean, why are they not? It's basically you got the season that's a tournament in itself, and you build up, and then you have a champion. How is that not part of it? It's right there.
Yeah. There has to be some way to have the conference championship games. The winners get automatic bids, and then have 5 to 7 at-large bids, and go from there. It should be relatively simple, but there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of money that needs to be figured out. As we know,
there's an important word there, money.
Exactly. So there's a lot of things that need to be figured out, and I'm sure those discussions have been happening behind the scenes for probably since 2014, when the 14 playoff began, and people realized, hey, this can be huge in terms of interest for college football. How can we make this even bigger? So I would expect changes in the next 5 to 10 years here, but there's a lot that needs to be figured out before we get there.
Yeah, taking advantage of opportunities when presented, kind of the key today, what we've been talking about. Ohio State did that. Man, oh man, did they do that. You talk about sticking it to Dabo Swinney. Ryan Day just had to be happy as he could be with that result, of course. But, man, Indiana's got to do the same. To get this program moved forward, they've got to take advantage of the opportunities when presented. This is 2 years in a row you had just laid there for you and can't get it done. And I talked about that perception. When you do that consistently, that's the perception you leave with people.
Yeah. I mean,
I know, or I think I have a better understanding of this team than just the average person because I cover it every day. I watch them. I'm intent follow them. They're a good team. What Tom Allen has built is incredible, especially at Indiana. But
yeah,
you got to. There's also ways you can do it better, and I think that some of those paths are not being taken.
There was something that you said earlier that I wanted to kind of go back to, which is about the idea of the rankings at the start of next season and how the Indiana's brand affects that. I want to use the example of Florida, which just got blasted in a bowl game by Oklahoma. They lost 55-20. Now, granted, they had some guys opt out, but they lost 55-20, and their preseason ranking next year is not going to be affected at all by that game. They are going to be in the top 10 in the preseason, just like they always are, because Florida.
People are going to see Florida.
Yes, they're going to see Florida. Indiana, people are going to look at Indiana and be like, what do I know about Indiana? Well, I remember they laid an egg in the bowl game against Ole Miss.
2 years in a row.
Exactly. So that you're absolutely right that the brand affects where you start the season, and we know now from this year that where you start the season affects where you end the season. And so that's why this loss is so frustrating for Indiana, because they had a chance to really kind of stick something in people's minds for next year and say, hey, I remember when Indiana won that bowl game, I'll rank them high. And they didn't do that.
Yep. Hey, we got Indiana taking on Maryland tonight. Don't forget, after the game with Todd Leary, it takes place live from Yogi's, of course. You can find that on the YouTube channel. That will be sent out later on. But we got a little bit more coming up. We'll talk about that game. The Terrapins coming in, taking on the Hoosiers. Back with more from the golf club at Eagle Point Studios right after this.
It's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 and Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers.
I'll text you.
An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Hey, this is Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're now a part of the Rivals Network. TheHoosier.com is where you'll find complete coverage of the Indiana Hoosiers, as well as coverage of the Big Ten. Simply go to TheHoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also catch Indiana Sports Beat Radio there each day at your convenience, or you can find it any place you podcast or on this station each weekday. If we're not on the station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. The 2021 golf season is just around the corner. Book your next outing or get your membership from the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Just call 812-824-4040. And whether you're playing golf or not, you'll want to check out the new Psalms Clubhouse. It's open to the public for lunch or dinner, and the food is fantastic. Call 812-824-4040 for reservations or tee times. The Golf Club at Eagle Point and Psalms Clubhouse. A winner every time.
Does your bank offer the personal service of a community bank combined with big bank products that you expect? I'm Dane Chandler, Banking Center Manager with Banterra, and with our bank, you get the best of both worlds. Our easy-to-use mobile app includes conveniences like mobile check deposit. We offer competitive CD and money market rates, smart mortgage options, and unmatched business products and services. Switching to Banterra is easy. Stop by our locations to learn more. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
The college and pro football seasons bring friends together, and Leroy's Tavern is a place to watch all the games every week with the NFL Sunday Ticket while enjoying $1 Busch Light drafts every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday. Leroy's Tavern also features a $6 daily lunch special from 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday, featuring a sandwich, fries, or onion rings, or a 7-inch pizza and a non-alcoholic drink for just $6. Be part of the karaoke fun every Friday and Saturday night. Leroy's Tavern, a West Side tradition for 50 years at 2659 Mount Vernon.
Hey, this is Jordan Halls, former Indiana Hoosier. Keep up with Indiana sports on Indiana Sports Beat.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat coming to you from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios. Dylan Sinn sitting in with me. Jim Coyle here. Big news for Indianapolis, of course. Not a shock because a lot of talk, but it's finally come out. Dylan pointed out Indianapolis is going to host the entire 2021 NCAA men's basketball tournament. First of all, that's exciting. Yes. That's just exciting. That's exciting, man. That is cool to have that opportunity to be here for Indiana, for the state. It's just awesome.
Yeah, and I'm glad that the NCAA was able to get that done because I mean, if you're going to have the NCAA tournament in one place, the best place to do it is Indianapolis, right? Quite frankly, the best place to do it would be Bloomington, but they don't have enough gyms for all that to happen. So you're gonna
Hyper, baby, we have it over to Hyper. They got all the courts you need.
Exactly. Imagining 6 NCAA tournament games going on at once at different courts. Exactly, but no,
Hyper
Indianapolis
14.
Yeah, exactly. So they should. But it's great to have this in Indianapolis. It's great for the state of Indiana. It's great for the city. And I mean, it's going to be just an insane event happening all at once, and it should be a lot of fun. I think that's the bottom line here. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, crazy. The net rankings also out. The first net rankings. The Big Ten has 12 teams in the top 51. 12 of the Big Ten's teams are in the top 51. Of course, I say 51 because Indiana is 51. They're the 12th team in that. That would get them in the tournament if it ended today. Pretty deep, but a lot of time for changing that. But there's those first net rankings. Man, 12 teams. That's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, what is it? 4 of the top 12 or Big Ten or something like that. I mean, we've talked about it all year, but it gets clearer and clearer every day that the conference is just crazy loaded. And quite frankly, right now, I think that's probably a good microcosm of where Indiana is. They're closer to the bottom. They're close to the bottom of the Big Ten, I think, which is pretty fair to say. But they are also an NCAA tournament caliber team, which is crazy to say because the Big Ten is just so loaded. But the Indiana is going to have chances to go out and prove that he deserves a tournament spot. Every single night they go out and win a game in the Big Ten, they add another notch to the NCAA tournament resume because it's a cliche at this point, but there really are no nights off. So if they go get a win against Maryland today, who's only 6-4, that's still a good resume booster for NCAA tournament because Maryland is a good team. They didn't win. They haven't won in the Big Ten so far other than against Wisconsin, but they're a good team. So Indiana can go out and get a nice win tonight and get back to 500 in Big Ten play. And 500 in Big Ten play will probably be plenty good enough to get you in the NCAA tournament this year.
Absolutely. And then when you get past the 51, let's see. Ironically, Michigan State at 119.
Yeah.
Are they? I thought that they were better than that.
I mean, they were 6-0 in the non-conference. They beat Duke, but Duke is way down there too. Duke is 115, I think. So Michigan State's biggest win has been significantly devalued, and they are 0-3 in conference play. So they're not a particularly good team right now. Tom Izzo is not happy with the squad he has. He's kind of struggling from what I've seen to kind of get a rotation together that works, and he hasn't landed on one yet. They're really missing Cassius Winston, who was everything for them for so long, and yeah, I guess we'll see whether they can turn it around. We've seen Michigan State teams that struggle early in the season turn it around late, but I've never seen a Michigan State team, at least in my lifetime, that's 0-3 in the Big Ten and has looked really listless in all 3 of those losses.
This weird season continues because a lot of times we do see Michigan State struggle a little bit at the beginning. He's historically a team that gets good in March when you want to be, but this is a weird year. You don't have that time. Normally you have all the time to get. You don't this year. And that 0-3 start you just pointed out, man, that's like an anchor. That's like you're trying to swim in the lake right now with a big old anchor around your neck. That's hard to do in this league when you've got 1,000 teams in front of you that are better. And it's just, you talk about Indiana having a tough road. Michigan State, they're not in the tournament right now. And if things don't turn around fast, they won't be. That would be a shocker for me. But nothing else would be. Nebraska, of course, is still not. They're the only team in the Big Ten that's probably a win for you. You can count that one on the books. Other than that, None. It's like a coin toss every night.
Well, don't say that yet. Indiana has to play Nebraska on Sunday. So if they go out and lose to Nebraska at home, we might be eating those words next Monday.
Absolutely. That's a hope. That's a 6:00 game time. As a matter of fact, that it was just announced 6 p.m. tip next Sunday. But tonight, the Terrapins. That's a challenge, man. Maryland is a good team. They've lost a couple here of late, but we know what they're capable of. I saw them go to number 6 Wisconsin and win there. So it doesn't matter where it is. I'm talking about where a game is being played now is almost irrelevant because my experience has been at the IU games almost every time. The visiting team has seemed to bring more energy in the games that I've seen at the Simon Scott Assembly Hall. Now, granted, we sit close to the visiting bench. So I acknowledge that. But just from a visual standpoint, it just seems like the visiting teams, and maybe it's because they know they have to, but they're bringing more energy to these games I've seen at Indiana's home games than I've seen from Indiana. And I don't mean that as a slight against Indiana. These other teams are just bringing more, it seems.
Yes. I think Indiana has played hard. We see them before the game. They're getting fired up on the court. They're doing everything they can to bring some energy to the game. But you're right. When we see these teams, I've noticed this, Penn State especially, Northwestern especially, those two teams I've really noticed, whenever they score a basket, their entire bench, and especially the walk-ons who kind of sit like in an L shape, they're on the edge of the L along the baseline, they are up pounding the side of the bench and screaming at the top of their lungs every single time that they score a basket. I just don't see the same thing from Indiana. Maybe that's, as you said, because we are closer to the visiting bench. But maybe Indiana needs to really start getting some of that energy going, and that would help them get past the fact that they don't have any crowds at these games to do it for them.
I think they should. One of the things, Indiana's got 1,400 managers down at the other end, and they're all sitting where I think they have a manager for each player on that roster. It sure looks like it. But they sit where you mentioned the visiting team is taking the L around the corner there where there's a little media type of thing where normally, but they're sitting there. So they're taking that whole corner where Indiana's players aren't. They got all those managers down there. So I don't know how much energy the managers are even allowed to exhibit. So I'm serious. So they're kind of being muted. And so I think they need to let them out. Let the IU players out. Move those managers out of the damn way. Get them out of there. Get these players in and let them get in the game. It's not. I know that they want to be in, but when you're kind of pushed back like they are, it's hard. It's like trying to reach over 5 or 6 people. And I think it's part of the situation, how they're set up.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's part of it. I think you're exactly right. So maybe we'll see that change as the year goes on. And because as Indiana tries to kind of maximize whatever home court advantage they can have, because that's the thing is like you have to find ways at home this year to build that home court advantage without fans. Figure out what you can do to kind of give yourself an advantage. And that's something that Indiana can work on as the year goes on here.
Absolutely. Tonight, what are you thinking about this game? What are you expecting to see as the Terrapins come in?
Yeah, it's interesting. As Don Fischer pointed out earlier, Maryland is missing Daryl Morcell, who has been a guy that's been a key piece for them for a while. He's their best defensive player. He's out with a facial fracture he suffered against Michigan, which just sounds extremely painful. So we hope he's okay. But yeah, I'm expecting to see Maryland try to get up and down the court. They're a guard-heavy team. They don't have the big men that they had in years past. Jalen Smith's gone. Bruno Fernando's gone. So they're going to try to get up and down the court. They're going to try to shoot a lot of threes. So Indiana, as we've said over and over, they're going to have to try to take care of the ball. Archie Miller said he's going to try to get get some more guys into the game, get them some more playing time. He said specifically he wants to see Jordan Geronimo play more. So I want to see Jordan Geronimo tonight, see him get out there, play some minutes. He's still learning on the defensive end, but see him get out there and make some plays. That's what I'm hoping to see tonight.
Yeah, we'll see what Christian Lander, if he can get in there and get some more minutes as well. We haven't seen a lot from Anthony Leo yet. And will the torrid shooting continue for Indiana, as they have been lighting it up from outside? And it's going to be interesting because they're going to need that. You got to have that to get Trace Jackson Davis, keep him open in the middle. And who else is going to help out down there? There was a mention of Joey Bronk. I saw that Archie's not ruling him out for the year. that's nice to say. I'm highly suspect that Indiana fans will see Joey Brunk play this season.
Yeah. And it's he probably won't play this year. They talked about maybe him coming back next year because he has the extra year of eligibility, which honestly wouldn't be the worst thing, because if Trace goes to the NBA, Indiana is going to be extremely thin up front next season. So that maybe it'd be good to have Joey come back next year. But yeah, it's very tough without him in the post right now, because everyone can just collapse on Trace, and that honestly makes Race Thompson maybe Indiana's most important player in terms of taking just a little bit of pressure off Trace. If he can get going inside a little bit, that kind of forces teams to not pay Trace so much attention. But yeah, the key for Indiana on offense this year is finding ways to get Trace Jackson the ball one-on-one. And they've done it in some games and they've had success. And there's been other games where they've really struggled and they've not had success. And that has kind of been the yin and yang of this team this year, is can you get him the ball one-on-one where he can go to work? Because when he gets the ball one-on-one, there's not anyone in the Big Ten that can guard him. So they need to scheme ways to get him open, and that's been an ongoing battle for them this year.
Absolutely. We'll see it tonight as the Hoosiers take on the Maryland Terrapins. That game is at 8 o'clock. After the game, live from Yoga's with Todd Leary coming to you there, so you can get the link, YouTube link. We'll send that out as well. Make sure you tune that in. Dylan, thanks a lot as always, man. Appreciate you. Great thanks to the voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fischer, and Matt Taylor from the Colts. Looking forward to talking to them again next week. Hope you have a great week, Dylan.
Absolutely, Jim. You as well.
Thank you, brother. Everybody else, have a great day. Appreciate you all, and look to be back tomorrow. Chronic Hoosier, Mike DeCourcy, Kevin Brockway. Until then, make sure do something nice for somebody. Wear your mask. And until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.